Hello everybody and welcome to the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup here at Silverstone Southern Circuit. It's going to be another cracking night. I'm sure we've had a fair few fantastic evenings here already at the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup, and alongside me to join me for all of those evenings, and luckily this one as well, is Jack Werrell. Jack, how the devil are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. And yeah, we've got an absolute stonker on the cards tonight. I think pretty much every season we have come to Silverstone at least once. This season, I think this is actually our second time here, previously on the national circuit, if not possibly the full international layout of this circuit. But it always produces some amazing racing here at Silverstone. Of course, it's steeped in history. It's held countless just motorsport events throughout the years. Of course, you get the endurance stuff, the GT stuff, Formula One, of course, as well as all the subcategories and the junior formulas from that. And in the circuit, in Northamptonshire, it's only gonna get better. And of course, this is the older variant of the circuit. We are on the southern layout of the 2012 mapped Silverstone. In theory, this circuit was only in use until 2009. So one of the ones that you might not see fairly often on the iRacing calendar, with it being a legacy circuit. However, that doesn't mean we aren't going to be left with nothing to talk about, because these are MX-5s. It's the Sunday Drivers' Cup. It's going to be busy.
Yeah, well, it's not mainly the most sort of popular configuration of Silverstone in the world, isn't it? But it is certainly one that some people like to throw back just for that inch of nostalgia. There are a few famous corners in there that you may well still recognise, the likes of Stowe, the Vale Complex. Slightly odd-looking pit lane, shall we say, but it's certainly going to throw up some surprises, that's for sure. And times are nice and tight, which is something that we always like to say in the MX-5 Sunday Drivers Club. But thanks to the fact that it's a small circuit, a lot like Brands Hatch or Silverstone International or national circuits, they are, very tight in terms of timing-wise. For instance, the top 5 realistically are separated by just over 2/10 of a second, all the way down. 2 seconds fully covers 21 places so far in this grid, Jack. But I'll tell you what, before we go into any of the qualifying, into practice, which is going ahead, shall we take a look at what happened last time out?
Yes, let's. And you can see, let me just get it up on my screen. I've managed to lose the tab. Here we go. So round 6 at Charlotte. You may remember quite an exciting race is probably the best way to put it. A fair bit of contact here and there, but you saw lots of drivers working their way up. For example, you can see Dave Geddes and Mackenzie Mann finishing 7th and 9th respectively, but Calais Cavisto, what a drive. Up at the front, got pole, got the fastest lap, the full 32 points available. So great stuff from the Finnish driver to take to the top step of the podium. Roberto Garcia, as per the usual, definitely up and fighting, finishing second, grabbing 28 points. And Chaz Draycott, once again, another podium. I think he's had pretty much a 100% podium record here in the Sunday Drivers' Cup. I don't think he's in attendance tonight due to commentary duties elsewhere, but you can imagine if he was here, he would be on the podium. Then we've got the Borst brothers, 4th and 5th, and you can see how everybody else shapes up along there. A couple of the drivers we weren't expecting to see that low down. Rene Ware, we normally see him slightly higher. Sander Ware, nowhere to be seen. But also, Dan Mould, he wasn't there. Well, he was there, but he wasn't in that top 25.
No, he wasn't, and I think he actually ended up DNFing, didn't he, from that from the last round, which is a bit of a shame, but hopefully we'll see him back today. I haven't seen him quite yet, but there is still time for him to jump onto the server before we go into qualifying. Let's have a look at how those results impacted the overall championship then, because that is quite important. Obviously, we do have team championships as well as a fun other statistic to bring you right at the end, but you can see on the top, Roberto Garcia still leading the way, 162 points, and I tell you what, that gap is only growing, isn't it? Thanks to mainly for the fact that Chaz Draycott has probably missed as many as he's actually raced so far this season. He's currently in 4th. The Borst, both Sander and Patrick trying to do their best to catch up to Roberto, but with their last time out at Charlotte, falling a little bit short of the points that they were needing to close the gap to Roberto. It's not quite happening. Kalle Kavisto looks to be trying to close the gap again, maybe breaking into that 100 points margin today and overtaking Chaz Draycott. That's pretty much for certain, as long as Kalle can get a half decent result here tonight. And Louis Correa as well in 6th, Joseph Keaveney 7th, Ben Hicks in 8th, 9th Stephen Orell, and rounding out the top 10, Michael Elliott.
Yeah, so you can see that championship is only getting closer, and with that 34-point gap up at the top and 32 points being the maximum available, no matter what happens tonight, Roberto Garcia is going to leave in the championship lead, but I'm sure he'd rather extend that lead margin.
He certainly would. A bit further down as well, there's a couple of people tied for, say, 18th, and Angelo and Svetanov. 27th, Dalemans and Guerrera are also tied, and right down the bottom of the sort of order is the 37th to 39th. You can see they're sort of bunched onto the end of that graphic, but they're nice and close as well. So there's plenty of drivers who can really progress just with one strong finish, whether it's this evening or another round. But of course, it's not just an individual team champion. It's not just an individual championship, Jack, is it? There's the team championship to worry about as well.
Absolutely. iRacing Netherlands up at the top doing a great job. 174 points for the Borst brothers, who just happen to be at the top end of practice. Sander Borst leading Patrick Borst 40 and 41. And it's not necessarily getting those wins. It's more the consistency, working with your teammate, getting on that podium, or at least getting one car on that podium. And they've pretty much done that throughout the entire season. So the iRacing Netherlands guys really got the bit between the teeth. Fast Cars Go Bang sat there in second. Quite a fair few points adrift at this point. On 138 points. Hispania Racing, I think that is the possibly helped by the lone effort of Roberto Garcia, who I think is one of the Hispania Racing drivers, on 135. And then you've got SRL 115, Simtech Racing Silver, and Simtech Racing 5th and 6th, 108 to 106. So a good little team rivalry there. Ignium Motorsport in 7th and Armstrong Racing in 8th. And you can see Zancho Simsport, Chaz Draycott, it says, I may possibly be looking at an older graphic, unless that does include drop rounds, but he's on 77 points there. However, in the championship, we know he's on 116, so possibly a drop round taken into account.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, Hispania Racing, that at the moment, that is just Roberto Garcia Campos. Now, in the individual championship, he's got 165 points, whereas his team has only got 135. So, yeah, they are worked out slightly different. Maybe the drop rounds are counted. Maybe there's just a different way of calculating the team championships. We'll have to ask Sander Ware or the Borst or whoever we get in for an interview later on. There is one more fun fact, isn't there, for you? Because we mentioned that Kalle Kavisto got the fastest lap. He also got pole position, and to be fair, bit of spoilers alert, but he's in the top 3 at the moment around Silverstone. But you can see in the all-time fastest laps of the Sunday Drivers Club, Kalle Kavisto now holds the record for the most, 5 fastest laps over the course of not only the season, but since the Sunday Drivers started off. Louis Correa, Sander Ware, and Dan Mould all drawing on 2nd place. And there's a bit of a gap, to be fair. Roberto Garcia down in 5th. But Kalle Kavisto he must be sort of confident of making a charge on that individual championship. The fact that he's putting in these consistently fast laps and scoring race wins now as well.
Yeah, it's got to be, as much as you want to stay focused and keep a level head, that's one of the things you've got to think about. Carrying in that massive haul of points and a great performance last time out at Charlotte, that's going to play on your mind, and you're going to be thinking, right, we've got to follow that up. We've got to show that we didn't fluke that. And to be fair, Kalle has always done that. No matter how good or how poor a previous round he's had, he's always just focused on the next one. He's gone, right, no matter how good I did, forget about it. Just let's focus on this next one. And Kalle tonight, you can see he's bringing that to the table once again. Sat there, like you say, in the top 3. It's both the Borsts at the top though. So if you look over at the graphic we've got at the moment, we don't have any of the Borsts there. So possibly now is the time to get themselves there. Iordanin Svetanov has only got 1 fastest lap. I'm looking for a driver that could potentially take that top spot away from Kalle Kavisto. Louis Correa has always been very competitive, but I can't see him out on circuit this evening. Just as a quick glance over, Dan Mould, like I say, he isn't here. Rene Ware is, but he's down in 16th place. So for Kalle Kavisto, he's somewhat safe in regards to the all-time fastest laps, but that doesn't stop, like we saw last round, a dark horse coming through the pack and maybe picking up a couple of extra points.
No, exactly that. And at the moment, Svetanov is obviously in 4th place in practice. So to run you through, say, the top 5 or the top 10 in practice we'll do, actually, because we've got a couple of minutes left on our sleeves. We've got about 6 minutes till we go into qualifying. Sander Borst, Patrick Borst, the 2 iRacing Netherlands drivers, looking very strong this evening. They're currently 1st and 2nd. Kalle Kavisto in 3rd alongside Iordanin Svetanov in 4th. Roberto Garcia Campos hoping to extend that championship lead, or if not extend it, maybe have a little bit of damage limitation if he doesn't quite have the overall pace here compared to the Borsts. He's in 5th at the moment. Michael Elliott, Sander Ware, Victor Oliveira, Xavier Lopez and Joseph Keaveney round out the top 10. But as I'm about to bring up on your screen now, there is a pretty small margin, to be honest, isn't there? I mean, the top 12 separated by less than a second, and you have to go all the way down to 21st, like I mentioned in the opening sort of sequences, there to find a gap more than 2 seconds away from the leader. So it's going to be nice and tight. I think Patrick and Kavisto actually less than a 1/10 of a second behind Sander Borst.
Yeah, so it's pretty close. Is probably the best way to put it. It's always been close, and you can see now that the specific intervals between the differing drivers. The smallest margin we can see there is in fact between Kavisto and Patrick Borst, only being 5 thousandths of a second. A little further back, you got Seb Hain and Mr. Reed in the 22 machine. The pair of those separated by 7 thousandths of a second. It's just it's typical Sunday Drivers' Cup gaps. They never really sort of stretch their legs to the point where they can build a gap. It's all about hoping that there's a bit of an incident in the background and then walking away with it. You'd never see really an easy race.
No, and you've brought up typical Sunday Drivers Club racing, so it's come to that time of the evening, probably, Jack, where I ask you maybe what you're expecting here at Silverstone, because it's not necessarily the most commonly used circuit, or, well, it's a very commonly used circuit, it's not necessarily the most commonly used layout of a circuit, and you do have to be slightly inventive in terms of the overtaking manoeuvres. I mean, we're going down into Stowe now with Kalle Kavisto. It's probably a very good overtaking opportunity, just like it is on the standard layout. But they're going to have to be slightly inventive, aren't they? And that's exactly what MX-5 drivers do best. There's no messing about. If they see an opportunity, they will lunge up the inside of it. They will lunge around the outside of it. And quite a lot of the time, we see them also trying to fly over the top of each other as well. So what would you expect here tonight? Would you expect more door-to-door action, or do you reckon they're going to keep it slightly cleaner because it's a nice wide track?
I think for me tonight, the first few laps are going to be very busy indeed, because that tends to be the best time to make up positions. Kalle Kavisto testing the track limits there through turns 4 and 5. But with it being a 20-lap race, of course, these laps are just going to fly away. We won't be able to keep up with the race. Only a 1:20 lap time, so not the longest lap in the world. However, very busy for everybody involved. The section we're going through now, the Island Chicane, turns 6, 7, and 0 wheels by the looks of it for Roberto Garcia, all 4 wheels off the ground, and then you land and then down through the 6-speed gearbox in towards Beckett's. That is going to be probably, from a spectator's point of view, the best part of the circuit, because you'll see lots of action, possibly side by side, jumbling in towards the chicane and then setting the car up in towards Beckett's, ready for the exit at Chapel. And now you can see Roberto Garcia Campos heading down the Hanger Straight. This little section of the circuit, I say little, this section of the circuit is going to be incredibly busy, because you start setting up that overtake for Stowe at Beckett's. So this is where we're going to see all these position changes. But at the end of the day, what I say and what actually happens tends to be completely different things, because everybody in this series has got a completely different idea of where they want to send the race.
Yeah, and that's a rather rude bit of traffic coming out there, because I was very much hoping to get a lap on board with Roberto Garcia. But let's go for Kalle Kavisto then. We were talking about him so much after that dominant display last time out at the Charlotte Roval. He's going through the first 2 corners there, nice little chicane. So the start-finish straight is slightly before that, going round the long right-hander here and onto, again, a potential overtaking opportunity. But this little section here, you said Stowe was a little section. Well, I would say this is a properly tight section here, and it's where a lot of drivers end up spinning out, isn't it? Because it's quite tight. If you hit the curb on the left-hand side too much, you do end up over-rotating the rear of the car, and at the end of the day, that's not the fastest way around the circuit. Going now, nice wide entry into the first apex, clip the curb on the right, clip the curb on the left, you can run all the way over it basically, and this is where we saw the drivers bouncing around into the right-hander. Nice late apex, it looks like you turn in a lot earlier than you do. and then try and sweep it back out. That is Maggots and Beckett's, or Chapel and Church. I'm not entirely sure which ends of the complex that is. It's the latter end, but I'm not sure which order the corner's going. And go down towards Stowe now. Plenty of slipstream opportunity here. It's going to be very important in qualifying. Nice and late on the brakes. You can stick it up the inside here if you've got the opportunity with that slipstream and overspeed. But nice and wide to the left. The pit entry is halfway round Stowe, so you've got to be really careful with that. And across the line to finish a lap round the Silverstone Southern Loop on board with Calicavisto.
Yeah, great lap from Calais. Not quite competitive, but you've got to say it was fairly precise. And you mentioned those curbs, and yeah, going in towards the chicane at turns 4 and 5, you've got to make sure you don't keep it off the curbs, but you use what you can get away with and no more. They will, like you say, bite you, and it's very easy to end up pointing the wrong way or ending up in the gravel. And then obviously you've got that somewhat short straight, which isn't really straight, on the run up to the very, very quick chicane. Turn 6 and 7, the island chicane. Set the car up nice and early, try and take the wider line in and then cut back. And then, yeah, you do come out at Beckett's. Maggots is just slightly before. You can see it in the background there. This time through as you go bouncing over the curbs. Once again, every car going at least 2 wheels off the ground. And now through Beckett's, you've got to make sure you don't understeer wide, because any lost time here will multiply down the straight. Then you've got the little left-hander at turn 9 of Chapel and on to the Hanger Straight. And this is there, like you say, overtaking opportunities. You're going to have all the slipstream in the world that you want as the session just ticks over now. So we will be heading in to the 10-minute qualifying session in just a few moments' time. But this is where we slowly start to see the drivers play their hand. They can go, right, okay, this is qualifying now. This is where I need to get the time, because being at the front is very important for these races, because we've seen turns 1, 2, and 3, the club section or the Vale section of the circuit leading on to club. Then you've got the chicane at turn 4 and 5. Then you've got the chicane at turn 6 and 7. So being at the front at the start is going to be incredibly important. So this is where I think we're going to see a very busy qualifying session.
Yeah, plenty of chicanes, I think, is what we can probably take away from the fact that the Silverstone circuit. And, you know, I actually had an interesting interaction with someone who said they never liked Zolder as a circuit because all it is just chicanes. So I asked them what their favourite circuit was in the world. You know what they said? Monza. I was like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Monza is essentially 3 chicanes and then the Parabolica. That's all it is. Well, yeah. The 2 Lesmos, obviously, I know are there, but that's a poor answer to give on that argument.
I know. He's not really fighting his side there, is he?
He's not exactly, yeah. It's, but I mean, as I said, the Silverstone circuit that we've got here tonight is also very much chicane heavy, but that can equally be quite a test, isn't it? Because they're all quite different chicanes, and they're all quite like tight left-hander, right-hander, quite narrow. Some of them are very, very fast-flowing, though, aren't they? And then you get a few overtaking opportunities. So we're very much hoping that the MX-5s give us a good show. They normally do, so there's no reason to doubt it. However, qualifying, Jack, in the sort of tactics, you know, thinking of from a driver's perspective, you got to really get into the toe, haven't you? Because that sort of straight down to Stowe is going to be really important to try and get some overspeed. Even 1 or 2 miles an hour can give you another 2/10 on the lap, and that's so crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we will see, as per the usual, the SimTech guys, they will all go out at different points and they will all set their respective lap times, but then you will see them all grouped together. They're already starting to do it now. You can see the drivers we're looking at the moment. We've got Mackenzie Mann, and then he's got another SimTech car behind him. I'm just trying to figure out who that could possibly be.
No, it's not Joseph Keevan.
It's not. Is it possibly Rob Jackson? No, I think he's a little too further up the road. But the SimTech cars, naturally, towards the end of the session, they will magnetize together, and you will slowly start to see them get closer. A car that was the SimTech car, very sideways in the background, but they will group together and help each other get that last-minute lap time. And if they don't gain much, well, but there's always that opportunity to gain a lot. And that slipstream in these cars, they haven't got the biggest power figure, 180 brake horsepower, about 150 pound-foot of torque. So the slipstream around here is going to be so vital, because you're flat out from here right the way until turn 10, and there's the Hanger Straight pretty much in between those 2 corners. So it's one of those things. You've got to balance aggression and all-out sort of the pressure on the car and pressure on yourself to get there, but you need to balance it with smooth driving and a bit of draft as well. So quite a lot to think about behind what is a very almost rookie formula of racing.
Yeah, and that's quite important to say, really, isn't it? Because it's not like these guys, although they are, you know, good drivers, good racers and everything like that, this isn't a championship for the elite, is it? We're not talking top server drivers here, are we? In the VLNs or anything like that. We're talking about people who love to get involved, love a little bit of racing. You know, they can't commit loads of time to it, which is why we only run every 3 weeks. But then when we actually come to the racing, it can be really sort of fast, furious, and pretty much all the way down the list. You know, basically, we always say it. We could be looking for a fight for the top 3, but there could be an equally close fight for 17th or 22nd or something like that. So it's a fantastic series for a driver to be involved with who wants to get in, learn a bit of iRacing, actually learn a lot of racecraft, because there's no doubt about it, there is a lot of racecraft that goes into these Sunday drivers races, and it's just a baptism of fire, essentially, isn't it? It's a fantastic training ground.
Yeah, it really is everything you need to see. Michael Elliott posting one of the quicker times we've seen this session, a 1:18.871 posted. That puts him on provisional pole, and that was Stephen Orrell managing to improve upon his time. Sebastian Hain does so as well, puts him up into provisional P2, swapping positions with the number 40 of Sander Borst. But the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup is just one of those series. Patrick Borst to the top of the times, a 1:18.520, joined on the front row provisionally by the second of the Borst. So 1:18.638 posted for Sander. So 41 leads 40 at the moment. Then it's number 4 of Michael Elliott in third. All these are provisional. However, we've still got over half the session to go, but you've got to think this is such an amazing series, whether you're extremely experienced or this is your first month on iRacing. No matter where you are, no matter what your experience is and your outings in various cars on iRacing, you're never going to be bored. There's always going to be someone of a very similar skill set. You can always have a great race, and even if you're not up there, even in the top 20, you will not be bored. And even if you get into the top 20, that comes with its own little prestige. You can sit there and go, yes, that is my target, I've reached the top 20, right, now let's focus on consistently doing that, and then you will then see the natural improvement, and you'll see that name get higher and higher up the order the further into the championship we go. So it's nice, it's almost a delight to watch these drivers enter the championship and then improve week on week on week on week. Then at the end of the season you can go, I've watched that driver develop and improve through the time in the series, and then you can almost wish him on for the next season.
Yeah, and you're talking about, you know, people maybe being a touch bored. First of all, very, very quick apologies about Sander Borst's livery, unfortunately not showing up here. We have spent the last 20 minutes before the stream went live trying to figure out why it wasn't happening, deleted everything, re-downloaded it, all about 4 or 5 times. Unfortunately, it's going to be a white car for this evening. We will try and get it back better for the next 3 weeks. I think it was white last time out, so we're going to have to look properly into the depths of why that's happening. But you're right. I mean, in terms of the drivers who Calicavisto on all green times here, let's see if he can get any better. In terms of sort of being bored, I suppose, really, I think it's safe to say, Jack, that as commentators we've covered some pretty boring series and some races and stuff like that. The drivers are never bored in this championship, but we're never bored either, is it? It's always one of those ones that you look forward to, because you just know when you sit down for the next half an hour or 20 laps or whatever it is, even in qualifying here, they're still going hammer and tongs. You're going to be entertained, and that's what it's about, isn't it? When it's sort of a slightly more casual league, you want to be entertained as a driver. Commentators are entertained. That provides fantastic products in terms of the stream as well, and hopefully you guys at home are entertained as well. So please do drop a like or a follow or subscribe, or even tell us what you want to see more of as well in the comments, and who are you supporting tonight, because that's always lovely for us to see, and the drivers who are watching this back as well. So as Roberto Garcia Campos goes into third place, Calicavisto is not on such a particularly quick lap, but the top 3 now is still the iRacing Netherlands car, Patrick and Sander Borst, followed by now Roberto Garcia Campos, just pipping his fellow Spaniard Javier Lopez, who's now dropped down to 4th position.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You see it in the qualifying sessions. Everybody's vying for their various places on the grid. But yeah, it's one of those series you will never be bored of. And we always say, why have they got to be 3 weeks apart? We understand, obviously, it is for a vast range of drivers, not just only in experience, but nationalities. I think at its peak, we had 13 nationalities out on circuit at one time, and possibly even more at some point. So it's a massively multinational series. So you've got to make sure it fits in for everybody. It works on the time zone. There's not too much pressure for you for the drivers to rock up. So it is nice to have that break, and it gives the drivers time to acclimatise to the cars a bit more, acclimatise to the circuit. But it just keeps you always wanting more, which I think is probably one of the best aspects of this series. You leave it on and you're like, oh God, right, we've got 3 weeks. and you're looking forward to it for those 3 weeks. You might be sat there one evening and it might be a Sunday evening, and you're right, just 1 week until this next race, and it brings in those crowds, which is always great to see. It's obviously amazing to have everybody in chat as well. Let us know what you think. As Jacko previously said, Roberto Garcia improving upon his time. We really need to stop waffling. Already 8 minutes 30 seconds into this 10-minute qualifying session. Roberto Garcia improving. Kalle Kavisto doing much the same, a 118.742 posted. And for the moment, of course, the cars are getting lighter, but the tyres are going to start to scrub, and I'm sure the track will be getting hotter, but it will also be rubbering in. All these different variables you've got to think about. But ever since they posted those times, the Borsts at the top, they've been unstoppable, even more so in practice as well. Could be a good night for iRacing Netherlands, bearing in mind they've got their teammate to work with.
They have indeed, yeah, and you can see the sort of times that we're looking at 118.5, but again, you're looking at a second gap between first and 12th, actually, just like it was in practice. I'm just having a look at Sander Ware. It looked like he was improving a couple of times a couple of sectors throughout this lap. He goes through, and he has indeed just pipped Kalle Kavisto actually into 4th place. A good time set by Sander Ware there, and you're right, there is a lot to think about in terms of tyre scrub, tyre temperature, track temperature, all those sort of things. But realistically, it's only a 10-minute session. It's not like you're going to come in, put some new tyres on and go back out. Realistically, a lot of the time it's just go out there, hell for leather, see what you can do. Speaking of seeing what you can do, Kalle Kavisto coming across the line. Can he get better than 5th place? Can he retake that 4th potentially? No, a 118.8, so a 10th off his previous time. And it looks like, from what I can tell so far, no one seems to be improving too much. And so as we tick down to the last 5 seconds of this session, it seems that the iRacing Netherlands crew have got this one sewn up.
Yeah, by the looks of it, and there you go, the time has completed. As it is an open qualifying session, if you start a lap, you are allowed to finish it within the time restraints. Crossing the line now, Arturo de Villa in the H20 Esports Racing Machine does not improve upon his fastest lap. Now you can see the time start to rock up. Alvaro Rodriguez improving, a 120.274 posted for himself. There we go, we can see the top 25 drivers, of which a lot of them are out on circuit. Any time that pops up white, it isn't an improvement. Any time that rocks up green, it is an improvement. And if it's purple, we've got a new pole sitter. But for the moment, we're not seeing that many improvements. A few drivers in the pit lane as well, evidently realising that they're not going to bring in any further lap time for this session. I'm just looking over Roberto Garcia. He's on a lap, but he's not really improving. In the pit lane he goes. Sander Borst, one of the only drivers. I'm just having a look to see who is still improving. Rob Jackson we're looking at the moment. He's only got a couple more sectors to go. Last time through, he set a personal best sector 3 and sector 4.
He's on the circuit at the moment.
He's pulled over and decided, yeah, he's not going to improve. David Ryan not improving. Jason Guara going down this long back straight. He improved last lap. Can he improve this lap? I don't believe so, looking at his sector times. So I think we are at the end of this session, and we aren't going to see that many more improvements. However, Aaron McGrath for Armstrong Racing does improve, a 121.088 posted. Provisional B25 for him. Jason Guara doesn't improve either.
Yeah, just sort of whiling down the time now as the drivers finally come across the line to finish. I think it's only, well, I think that's actually all the drivers now just coming across the line. So they'll be pulling over and coming into the pit lane. They'll be automatically kicked out of the session anyway if they don't do that sooner rather than later. But very much looking forward to it. We'll be able to bring you the grid as soon as possible. But remember what you're watching, Sunday Drivers MX-5 Club here at the Silverstone Southern Circuit. Thank you very much for jumping along. There will be a half-an-hour race or 20 laps, whichever comes first. Hopefully filled with action and clean, good, succinct racing as well. What we'd love to see in this championship is the fact that everybody is so darn close, and we can bring you the grid. So Jack, take us through it.
So we have Patrick Borst on pole position, a 118.520, the pole time, joined by his teammate and brother Sander Borst on the front row of the grid. Then it's Roberto Garcia and Sander Ware on row 2. Row 3 is made up of Kalle Kavisto and Xavier Lopez. Then we've got Michael Elliott and Seb Hain. Yodnin Svetanov and Victor Oliveira round out the top 10. Then we've got Stephen Orrell and Peter Reid 11th and 12th. Then we've got Pedro Marimon Cladera, Joseph Kivini, Rene Ware, Dave Geddes, Rob Jackson, James Austin, David Ryan, Sven Dalemans on row 10 of the grid, Alvaro Rodriguez, Timo Paya, Jason Guara, Arturo de Villa, and I think we're getting ready to go already in the background. Then we've got Aaron McGrath, Paul Clist, Martin Smith and Mackenzie Mann rounding out the 28 strong grid here this evening, and I'm sure in less than 10 seconds time we'll see those lights.
Yeah, we will do, and it's a very exciting moment for Patrick Borst, isn't it, sitting on pole position. Both Patrick and Sander will be hoping for an improved finishing result from what they had at the Charlotte Roval. Remember, Sander Boers is an iRacing Netherlands team as well. Unfortunately, his car is in white. We've explained why. Hopefully, it'll be fixed for 3 weeks' time. I do apologise again. Roberto Garcia Campos, our championship leader, sat in 3rd place. Now, the only two that are realistically going to catch him tonight with any sort of major impact are going to be the two on the front row. But as the lights start to come on, you can hear the engine notes rise in the background. And it's going to be racing here for the first and only time here on a Sunday night. It's a good start by Roberto Campos. A bit slow off the line for Sander Boers, and he's going to feel the effect of that straight away. And I tell you what, they've gone round the wrong part of the circuit. They've gone onto the wrong chicane. Oh, no.
They've gone the wrong way. That is something you never normally see.
They've all got slowdowns.
Yeah, everybody has got a slowdown. Michael Elliott goes flying through to take up the lead of the race. It's all carnage in the background. It all started, that's one of the H20 cars on 2 wheels, another one pointing backwards, a cloud of smoke, everybody trying to work their way through. And I think it all started, Roberto Garcia, he was so eager to get past, it could have actually been one of the Boers. Nearly went the wrong way, and Roberto Garcia just followed him. It all went wrong at the start. We've got to have another look back at that at some point, but Michael Elliott leading the way at the moment. Seb Hain in the number 12 following along. Roberto Garcia, even after serving his slowdown, finds himself in 3rd place. Then it's Victor Oliveira in 4th, Sander Boers 5th, and Pedro Marimon in 6th. Kalle Kavisto right the way down in 7th place by the looks of it now. He's lost 2 places. Sander Werrell has lost 5. Patrick Boers from the front row of the grid has lost 13 places. He's right the way down in 14th place, Jacko.
He is indeed, and don't you worry about a thing, Jack. We're definitely going to be looking at that green flag again, because I've never really seen that, to be honest, and hopefully, well, we all know that the drivers aren't going to do that for a second time. Patrick Boers trying to make his way up the inside there of Stephen Orell, and really sending it, wasn't he? And he's also trying to get Sven Dalemans, but they're going to go 3 wide towards the club chicane. Michael Elliott leading the way then. Roberto Garcia's made his way up to 3rd place. I just want to see how they're going to finish on 3 wide. There's a crash ahead of them. Let's hope that they don't make contact with anybody that's coming up. Oh, with the driver just on the edge of glory there. Lookingly, he didn't actually come off to any worse fate, but they're going 4 wide now into the chicane. We said this is ill-advised. It is ill-advised. How are they going to come out of it? And to be fair, they've proved us wrong. That wasn't too bad.
No, it wasn't too bad at all, but you can see there could possibly be more contact in the background. That's Patrick Boers in desperation trying to make up for that eventful start is probably the best way to put it. He's now right the way up in 8th place. He has gained position. Sander Werrell's going to be the next target for him. You can see him up the road. He's done a great job of getting through that pack. Very clean, very precise from himself, and you can see it's pretty much a one-way affair through the island chicane. Now heading up towards Beckett's. The pack has somewhat opened out. We just look slightly back in the distance though. We've got Sven Dalemans alongside Victor Oliveira. Stephen Orell just trying to get in on the mix. He looks for the cutback through Chapel. He might get the pair of them in one. However, it's going to be who got the best run coming out of Chapel. It looks like Victor Oliveira has been absolutely done there, and you can see now that's David Ryan working his way past, Dave Geddes getting past as well, and that's another car, Aaron McGrath, up 10 places. He's brought Martin Schmidt with him from the tail end of the order. So while it's all gone wrong up at the front, everybody else is all reaping the rewards from it. Somebody's peeling into the pit lane. That's Victor Oliveira. Roberto Garcia with the fastest lap of the race, a 19.43 posted. Michael Elliott, it says on my timing that he got the fastest lap of the race, but it is in fact Roberto Garcia that got that at 1:19.37. You can see everybody in the background all trying to get these positions after what was a start that we don't normally see. Has really left the field jumbled up, and we're going to see more action than ever.
You know, it's a good race when you have absolutely no idea who to point the camera at, isn't it? Because there is just action left, right, and centre. Rob Jackson and Sander Werrell. Oh, there's Rob Jackson, Joseph Keaveney. We're going nice and close to each other. Patrick Boers has got through. He's only lost 6 places now because he's up to 7th. This mid-pack, though, is just going at it at the moment. Sander Werrell, Sven Dalemans, David Ryan. And to be fair, a lot of this mid-pack have actually gained a lot of positions. We're looking at the likes of Martin Smith. He's in 17th. He gained 10 places. Sven Dalemans, he's gained 7. Only Sander Werrell, really, who is in amongst this sort of mid-pack, this 10th down to 17th position, is the only driver that's actually lost positions. He's lost 8 places off the start line, so we know he's got good pace. It's just whether or not he can crack through quite as quickly as the likes of Patrick Boers. Svetanov is falling down the order, and that's because I'm actually not sure. I thought he had a crash, but actually it was Sebastian Hain who had an incident, so maybe he just went a little bit wide. Sander Boers, he started in 2nd place. He's running in 3rd, so not a terrible start for him. Kalle Kavisto, he's in 5th. He started in 5th. Pedro Marimon Cladera, he's gained 9 positions up to 4th place at the moment.
Yeah, and for the moment, it's looking like he is only going to go forward. Pedro Marimon, another one of those drivers that we see mixed results from him, but he's up there towards his teammate now. Roberto Garcia obviously sat there in 2nd place. He's just got to worry about the charging Calais Cavisto. He's been competitive all night. He's back up to where he started in 5th place. Patrick Borst just about in the background. Paul Clister's had an incident, so it's all starting to almost rectify itself from the start. You can see every driver in the background has really opened up, and there's not really any equidistant gaps between anybody. Still looking now at Calais Cavisto. He's gaining all the way down the Hanger Straight. We've got turn 10 of Stowe on the way. He's going to have to be later on the brakes. He's going to have to be very committed, decide, yeah, maybe this time it isn't the time for that overtake. But of course, we are running out of time. In theory, we are on lap 5 of the race now, so 16 laps of the race remaining, but in this championship, it goes in a blink of an eye. Sander Borst now with fastest lap of the race, a 1:18.499. That would have stood him in very good stead for qualifying, evidently trying to fly the flag of iRacing Netherlands tie, as Patrick Borst has, of course, lost out. So the Borst brothers, after what was a dream qualifying, the race hasn't really gone their way.
No, it hasn't, and we're going to take this very brief moment of sort of chilled out sort of racing to just have a quick look at that green flag again. We're going to have a look at it from Calais Cavisto's point of view. Actually, no, not Roberto Campos' point of view, because he got a mega start, as you can see there. But as he's coming into not even the first corner, you can see it's the iRacing Netherlands car who was on pole position, one of the Borsts. He was the one who led the way into that corner, didn't he? And all of a sudden, they all have to slam the brakes on because they've cut the corner. Going to have one more quick look at that from maybe a mid-car, a mid-pack car, say James Austin right at the back end, see what their sort of opinion of this start is. Because I wonder if they actually clicked with the fact they'll have to go sort of straight on, or whether they were going to follow everybody else as well.
Yeah, you can see there's the slight bit of confusion. Everybody's thinking, right, what's going on? And it shows that when you're starting one of these races, Simtech car backwards in the middle of the road, and then that's James Austin pointing backwards. But it's just one of those things that it's said so often in motorsport, you can follow a car, but don't focus on it. You've got to make sure you drive your own race, because as soon as the car in front makes a mistake, 9 times out of 10, you'll make the identical one, and that seems to be what happened at the start. They were just following everybody, following the herd of cars, and everybody just went the incorrect way. I've got to say, I've never seen it before quite to that extent, so there's always a new experience in this championship. And you can see newcomer to this series, Martin Schmidt, in the 64 machine, round the outside of Mackenzie. Oh, he was more or less up the inside of Mackenzie Man at turn 1, and then really secured it at turn 2. Closest cars we've got on circuit just up the road, Xavier Lopez and Peter Reed, I believe. Yes, it is indeed. So his H20 car versus Simtech car. Not too much of a gap between the pair of them. You can see Xavi closing up on the brakes. Here is Joseph Kivany and Iordnin Svetanov. Iordnin sets the car up beautifully for the straight. You might even get the move done already, but you don't really want to do that. You want to make sure you're a couple of tenths back, ready for the straights, then you can really reap the rewards from that draft assistance that you mentioned earlier, Jack. I mean, it's really starting to play into the hands of Iordnin, but you've got to think he is a little bit too far back to get the move done this time, or is he on the brakes up the inside? Is he going to get that move done? It will allow Joseph to carry the superior momentum around the outside. It will gift him the inside, but no need. Move up the inside. Iordnin Svetanov up in 7th place.
I love it when a driver just shuts us up in our like as we stand, basically, isn't it? We make a prediction and then instantly we're completely incorrect. So Svetanov just flew up the inside, and to be fair, Svetanov was actually quite quick in qualifying and practice, wasn't he? That's I mean, he's gotten through there quite cleanly on Kivany, and I imagine he's going to just be chasing down the next couple of drivers as well. There was about a 1 to 2 second gap between a lot of these drivers. I think the top 7, after we just finished that green flag replays, the top 7 was separated by a good 10 seconds or so, which is amazing, really. I mean, for instance, to put that into perspective, Michael Elliott to Roberto Garcia, when we came back from that green flag replay, there was a gap of 1.7 seconds. And in qualifying, 1.7 seconds would have seen 1st to 15th. So that is how, how quick that these guys were going. And as the races just sort of progressed, the more consistent drivers are starting to gap their way through. And Michael Elliott, we saw him absolutely rapid in practice, wasn't he? He's very rapid here in the race, it seems, as well. He's gained 6 positions to take a place up he probably deserved, he was worth a shot at, but maybe didn't hook the qualifying up as best he can. But he's gone very wide into the first corner as I'm talking him up. And again, it's another driver shutting me up in my place. Galley and Michael Elliott are now down to third. Roberto Campos, he's extending that championship lead if he stays where he is.
He is indeed. It's a great start and a great race so far from the young Spaniard, number 19 in the Hispania Racing Machine, looking right to the edge of the top 10. This is Stephen Orr trying to defend now, or actually trying to get in front of Rob Jackson. Rob, 8 places gained so far in the number 18 machine, and this is where you think, right, if I'm going to get a move done, there's no point going for it here or even at Beckett's. Just sit in the wheel tracks, and then once again, the hanger straight, it's going to come up so often. Just get the car set up here, get it ready for Beckett's, ready for Chapel, and then if you've got that gap, you've got that slight overrun, you can then use the draft right the way down the straight, like we saw Riordan and Svetanov do, just sneak up the inside. Now we're seeing Pedro Marimon Cladera getting very hot under the collar because Patrick Borst is looking to the inside. Is he going to get him on the brakes? It looks like he will, much like Riordan on the lap prior, and yes, it was almost given to him there. I think Pedro thought there's no real need to stop this from happening. Now we can see Michael Elliott, SRL, doing quite well up at the top. You've got Michael Elliott leading Cali Cavisto third and fourth, number 4 versus number 3. And if they are in contact, I'm hoping they're talking to each other, thinking, right, let's just work together here. We can catch Sander. Once we've got him disposed and out of the way, we can focus on Roberto Garcia, and then once again that will make not only a dent in the championship lead of Roberto Garcia and Hispania Racing, it's going to give both the SRL drivers and the team a massive haul of points.
Yeah, well, they might be looking at fastest lap as well, because I believe there's a point for that. So Calacavisto obviously got that last time and pole and the race victory, so he took the clean house basically. No more points left for anybody else to have. They're going to definitely be probably having a look at that this time round as well. I think their best lap time so far, Calais, is about a 10th off Roberto Campos. But to be honest, the order is so jumbled after all of that. It's quite hard to see who has got the best lap time. Maybe we'll bring that graphic up a little bit later. But Arturo Davia, Victor Oliveira have both had a crash, and Victor Oliveira actually carried on having a crash a couple of times after that. And I think, oh, that's a huge hit up the inside of the first corner. And to be fair, I think Arturo Davia maybe just had a wheel on the grass on the outside there, which unfortunately caused that one.
Yeah, just an unlucky incident there, but for the moment, the race, I was going to say at the front, is starting to calm down, but we just look further back, and you can see now this is Xavi Lopez trying to get past Sven Dalemans. It seems like the inside of Stowe is the preferred point. Another position possibly made there for Xavi on his way back up through the order. He's lost 10 places as it stands. Now he's secured P16. Sven Dalemans and Aaron McGrath up 3 places and 7 places respectively. Elbows his way up the inside, does Sven Dalemans. However, I think he more compromised his line on the way out just to get the move done on the way in, and he's going to lose 2 here. So while he was so desperate at getting 1, he's lost 2. Because Aaron McGrath, he will be on the inside for turn 4. Let's see what he can do on the brakes. Sven Dalemans is going to be brave. He's going to hang it all the way around the outside. That turns to the inside, and then it's just a slight bit of contact. He lost the rear, nudges Aaron McGrath, but Sven Dalemans down another place. Aaron McGrath continuing on without too much of an issue, even after that little bit of damage.
Yeah, actually it saved him, didn't he, Aaron McGrath, there for Sven Dalemans, because that touch actually corrected Dalemans. Pedro Cladera is flying up the inside here, potentially. No, in fact, it's Svetanov flying up the inside of Marimon. Sorry, got that one slightly mixed up, but a good amount of pace flowing around the outside for Pedro, wasn't it? And I think he's actually defended that really rather well. So Svetanov maybe not having it all his own way up the inside of Stowe, but it's not going to stop him trying for the next corner, is it? And it's a good into the club chicane. Oh, but Cladera not really very happy at losing that position, going for a gap that really was never there. Luckily, both drivers come out of it fairly unscathed in terms of they're facing the correct way. And Svetanov keeps the position that he quite rightly gained, I'd say, and Cladera lives to fight another day.
Yeah, he does indeed, and it's looking like for the moment the lead gap between Roberto Garcia and Sander Borst is slowly starting to come down, almost a 10th difference on the lap prior. So we're just going to keep an eye on them to see how they get on. You can see half a second is the gap between the top 2. Sander Borst, he will be picking up all the benefits from the draft, and it's now just down to how Sander Borst reads this situation. Up towards Stowe, this will be lap 11 ticked into the books, heading on towards now lap 12, and I don't think we'll get anywhere real close to the time limit, but you can just see he's looking, he's going. Sander Borst very late on the brakes. He's never going to get that slowed down, is he? He is, and then he can park it on the apex. Sander Borst up the inside of Roberto Garcia, very late on the brakes, possibly too deep. However, it compromised Roberto just enough so he can secure that lead. But for how long? Look at this, Roberto Garcia, he's on the offensive once again.
Yeah, he is indeed. A little bit of a tap of the brake shows that he wasn't exactly going to go flying up the inside there. But I think Sander Borst is off to the post office, isn't he? Because he was licking the stamp and he went to send it. And he did. He got it slowed down, though. I mean, it was right on the edge, on the white line. You couldn't have got that car any further. Even an inch would have mean it was on the grass. He would have got just sucked onto the grass and he would have been, back down to third, potentially even fourth. I reckon Michael Elliott and Kalle Kavisto are close enough to really have a go if either of these drivers realistically make some kind of mistake. And there was a 2.5 second gap between second and third. Well, that's shrunk right down to 1.5 seconds now. All the way down the field. Again, there's fantastic racing, but when there's a fight for the race lead, Jack, we gotta focus on it.
We do indeed, and you can see now Sander Borst wise to the move, holds the inside. Both the SRL guys are taking time out of the top two. So Michael Elliott and Kalle Kavisto setting their sights high for this podium. And you can now see Roberto Garcia. What is he going to do? Is he going to have a look to the inside? No, he's just going to almost keep his cards close to his chest and decide what he's going to do. At this point, he can monitor what Sander Borst is doing, seeing where he is potentially slightly quicker and maybe slightly later on the brakes than the car in front. And then he can pick his point, but he doesn't have all day. We're on lap 13 of the race, and you can see we're not going to get anywhere near that time limit, so he's going to have to rely on these laps. There's no way around it. James Austin now battling away with Sander Ware. He's looking up the inside. He won't get squeezed to the apex, and he's got that superior momentum. Position made for the moment for James Austin. There isn't an overlap anymore, and it looks like, yeah, that position is secure. I think I saw the Bulgarian driver of Iordine Svetanov up the road, but now you can see, look at this, Peter Reed trying to get up the inside of Dave Geddes, does so successfully. And back up to the front now, Sander Borst and Roberto Garcia equidistantly spread now back to Michael Elliott and Kalle Kavisto. So you can see all this battling has brought the lead duos together. So we now have 4 for the lead, a little quartet up at the front, and then it's down to Patrick Borst and the Bulgarian of Iordine Svetanov, the first of the privateer entries. But keeping an eye on this lead battle, it's not going to go away. And if they keep battling, the SRL guys are going to be licking their lips, knowing full well there is a load of points on the table.
Yeah, exactly that, and we've mentioned it just quickly before we forget it again, that is your best laps that you can see on the left-hand side. So Sander Borst does have the fastest lap, so he can keep this first place. He'll also have the lap for fastest lap. He didn't get pole, remember that was his brother Patrick, who's currently running down in 5th position. But it's going to still be a good night for the iRacing Netherlands drivers, regardless of how it finishes now. Well, I say regardless, as long as Sander, finishes in the battle that he's currently in. I tell you what, it would be really interesting, because clearly Patrick Borst has very good pace underneath him. Showed that in qualifying, showed it in the race, in practice as well. What if these guys start fighting each other? What if all 4 drivers start falling over each other, and that invites Patrick Borst into the race as well? I wouldn't like to say that I would like to see a crash or anything like that, obviously, but I would like to see Patrick coming in and making it a 5-way battle. So you never know, as we come to the end of the next maybe 2 or 3 laps, and we're 2 or 3 laps from the end, maybe we start seeing some ambitious lunges up the inside and people slowing each other up slightly and inviting more drivers to get involved for the race lead. That'd be fantastic to see. It
would indeed, and you can see now Michael Elliott really starting to pile the pressure onto Roberto Garcia. While that's been going on in his rearview mirror, you can see Sander Borst is trying to make good his escape. Michael Elliott, another little look up the inside. So the South African really making his intentions known. He's got his Finnish teammate just sat behind. Nice and easy third gear, not over-revving the car. They haven't got the widest tyres in the world. So you've got to make sure you're nice and smooth on the inputs, because they're all about momentum. They haven't got that much power. It's not going to spin the world the other way, let's face it. But looking at it for the moment, it is well and truly 4 for the lead now. While Sander Borst is trying to get away, Roberto Garcia, he knows what he's doing. He's a clever driver. He's one of the, I think you can refer to him as the thinking driver. While he has got a car in his rearview mirror, he's weighed up which is more important, focus on the rear view or focus out your windscreen, and that's definitely what he's doing. He's focusing out his windscreen, keeping an eye on Sander Borst, and almost driving his own race. If he sticks to his lines, it's going to make it ever more difficult for Michael Elliott to get by, but he's going to make it ever more difficult for Sander Borst to escape. So Roberto Garcia, the cards are really on his side of the table, because he can decide exactly what he wants to do with the final 5 laps of this race. Lap 15 now. 14 laps in theory completed, and at the end of this one it will be the 15, and you can see Roberto Garcia, he's going to look to the outside. He shouldn't be able to get the move done there, but we know what he's like. He's renowned for these bold moves. He's looking, he's carried that superior momentum, Jacko, in towards turn 1. What's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Sander definitely going defensive in nearly every single opportunity, isn't he? Allowing these SRL drivers to just get involved with the fight. And I reckon that's a tactic of his, to be honest. I reckon Sander probably knows that he's slowing himself up an awful lot, but as long as he parks his car on the apex, the SRL drivers can get involved, and that's exactly what they're doing. Now, Borst needs to try and pull away, because they're going through one of the sort of tighter chicanes here, and unfortunately for him, Michael Elliott wasn't really going fast enough to try and really put Garcia off, but you can already see as soon as Garcia just drops off from Sander Borst, and he can't quite make the move stick, the gap opens right up, doesn't it? All of a sudden, we've gone from less than 0.3 of a second between each driver to, well, Sander Borst has just gained 1.3 seconds because Garcia got it all long through the chicane. Up the inside goes Michael Elliott, second time lucky for him. Cavisto now will have the slipstream as well down the straight. There's a little bit of a touch there. They're clearly shopping at B&Q because they got a little tap. Sander Borst away with the fairies. Michael Elliott in second, and SRL have made it a 2-3 at the moment, with Roberto Garcia now facing a wall of black.
He is indeed, and once again back up the inside of Calle Cavisto goes Roberto Garcia. He gave it a damn good go. Now heading towards turn 1, it looks like he will carry that overspeed, but you can see Calle Cavisto, he does have that draft assistance from his teammate Michael Elliott in front. It's going to be last of the late breakers. Calle left without much to do in the way of defence at that point. So Roberto Garcia, it was looking rather bleak from himself. He's been in the lead, he's been in second, he's been in third, and he was briefly in fourth, but he managed to get back past the SRL car of Calle Cavisto. But it does now mean he is in an SRL sandwich. While all this is going on, Sander Borst has managed to escape into the distance, and you can see on the timing screen Dave Geddes and Xavier Lopez were changing places. It looks like they are still doing so, and elsewhere on the road you're seeing times get close, but nothing is as close as this little trio here, Jacko.
It is, and you know what I said a couple of laps ago, it'd be interesting to see if they start fighting and Patrick Borst gains. Well, Borst has gained 4 seconds now on these drivers. It was 6 seconds the gap once upon a time. Now it's 2.5, and that is everything I want and more, because you know, although it was rather humorous, the green flag, we do want to see the quickest drivers obviously fighting for the top honours, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. And I think Patrick Borst deserves a seat at the table to throw his hat into the ring. 3 wide into Stowe. Garcia gets his nose ahead of both the SRL drivers. Feels like Verstappen versus Mercedes at the moment, doesn't it? With Sander Borst just leaving them out in the distance, though. I don't know what part he would play in this analogy, but it is at the moment Garcia still winning ahead of those 2 drivers. No matter what they do, they can't seem to keep the Spaniard behind them.
Now it's growing an ever larger difficulty for the SRL guys. On lap 18 now, so not too much more of racing action to go, but we're just keeping an eye on this lead trio. It is Roberto Garcia once again leading this little train. In the background, however, Jacko, Patrick Borst is getting closer, right the way back now to Timo Payet. He is looking up the inside of Sven Dalemans. What can Sven do in the way of defence? Very late braking, almost trail braking through the corner is the second of the Finnish drivers of Timo Payet. And Sven Dalemans does manage to keep the car on the road. However, he cannot keep it in front of Sven Dalemans. In the background, Aaron McGrath and Alvaro Rodriguez for H20. Back up to this lead trio, however, we've still got Roberto Garcia leading the SRL train of Michael Elliott and Calle Cavisto. And that lead gap now, 2.1 seconds of Sander Borst, so great stuff from himself. Biggest mover in the field, we've got Mackenzie Mann down in 16th place. He's gained 12 places. However, it's not been an ideal night for Seb Haynes. 17 places lost, just ahead of Victor Oliveira with 16. So the start really threw a spanner in the works. On to lap 19 now, the penultimate lap of the race. It's still Sander Borst leading the way. Look at the lap times, however. He's a 10th clear just in that clean air. He hasn't got to worry about any cars behind him. So Sander Borst, this race has really come to himself and iRacing iRacing Netherlands, but you can still see Roberto Garcia Campos under increasing pressure from Michael Elliott. Calais Cavisto with aspirations of the podium as well, so it's down to what these SRL guys can do about ganging up on Roberto Garcia.
Yeah, through a few of the chicanes, I do get the impression that Elliott is sending an awful lot more speed through into the entry rather than Garcia, maybe preferring to go this old slow in, fast out approach, which probably is the more favourable approaches. But just look at the straight line that Elliott gets through there, especially closes right up on Garcia, and I would say through there alone, Elliott is making up 0.2 of a second every single time on Garcia, and arguably it's the most important complex on the circuit because it leads you onto the hangar straight here, and it's exactly why Garcia is getting caught each and every lap for the SRL, because it seems everywhere else Campos has the beating. Garcia has the beating of the other two drivers, but just through there, Elliott is making himself known that he's the fastest driver probably on the circuit at the moment through those three corners that enter the chicane. Onto the white flag lap now. Sander Bourse in the race lead. He has been caught up slightly. He lost 0.6 of a second there, but Garcia really under attack now. It's now or never, Jack. Patrick Bourse is coming into the fray as well. He'll be in slipstream, but he's not going to have any chance of it unless they start fighting.
Yeah, the SRL guys, this is the last thing they want to do. They cannot afford to battle. Look at that, Patrick Bourse on the brakes, really closing up to the tail end of Calais Cavisto now. Calais been in fourth for so long, he's allowed his teammate to work forward in towards Roberto Garcia Campos, almost playing rear gunner has Calais, protecting his teammate, but it might all come to haunt him now because the second of the iRacing Netherlands cars, Patrick Bourse, the number 41 machine, in 5th place, aspirations of 4th, and you can see right the way up now, Michael Elliott still Roberto Garcia Campos, nose to tail through Beckett's we go. Michael Elliott much later on the brakes, but does he wash wine slightly? Heading up through Chapel now, on towards the hangar straight for the final time of asking, and it's still Roberto Garcia Campos sat there in 2nd place, pulling over to the left-hand side of the circuit, just making sure that he gives as little draft assistance to the car behind as possible, then cutting over for the defence, and you can see a little bit of traffic up the road, but that won't play a part as Sander Bourse through the final corner for the final time on the 20th lap of the race. Round 7 of the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup goes to Sander Bourse. The great controlled drive from himself. Roberto Garcia manages to fend off SRL to grab 2nd. Michael Elliott rounds out your podium. Calais Cavisto in 4th, just about, because Patrick Bourse, what a recovery drive from himself. The front row of the grid, not the greatest of starts, but does manage to cross the line in 5th place, and we've still got the race going on in the background, Jacko.
Yeah, Patrick Bourse, actually, I think only came in 5th by 7/100ths of a second, so fantastic recovery from him. It just was maybe one lap too close to the end. This is Peter Reid coming across the line, just outside the top 10, just having a look. Aaron McGrath, nice and close, going side to side with Sven Delman. This has been a race-long battle here in the background, hasn't it? And this is what we were saying, Jack. It's not just the top 3 that can have a good old ding-dong. There'll be an equal amount of battling going all the way down, fighting for 17th, ironically, exactly where I said, which is nice to see as well. So as Aaron McGrath comes across the line, Sven Delman's trying to get his nose ahead, and I think it's just... I think actually it was Daleman's just ahead of McGrath on the drag line to the end there. So great finish from those guys, and epitomising really what the Sunday Drivers is about. Getting people involved, loving racing, and just keeping them engrossed in the sim life as well. And well, what a race we've had. Sander Bourse, realistically, he drove away with it, didn't he, Jack? There was no sort of big... charge back at the end from any of the top 3 or the other top 3 drivers, but there was a fantastic battle for 2nd place.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant, and I'd love to watch that back again. My God, what a race. Sander Bourse takes top on us, 1.7 seconds clear in the end of Roberto Garcia Campos. It just shows how crucial battling can be to your race win. And Michael Elliott rounds out your podium for SRL. The 2nd of the SRL cars, Calais Cavisto, across the line in 4th place. And not too far back. You look at that, only 2.6 seconds away from the lead. And then you can see the gap to Patrick Bourse, literally non-existent. Only 2.7 seconds back from him. Then it's Jordan Svetanov in 6th, Pedro Maramon-Cladera 7th, Stephen Orrell in 8th. Then it's Joseph Keaveney and Rob Jackson rounding out your top 10. Then we have Sander Ware, Peter Reid, James Austin, David Ryan, Javier Lopez, Mackenzie Mann, Aaron McGrath, and Sven Delmans in 18th place for Holy Cow Racing. And we have Timo Paya, Alvaro Rodriguez Porter, Dave Geddes, Arturo De Villa, Martin Schmidt, and Paul Klist. And then we get to Sebastian Hain and our retirements from here thereafter, with Victor Oliveira, Rene Ware, and Jason Guara sadly not making it to the end of the race, but we saw so many different aspects of that race. The start was something I've never seen before, quite entertaining, I've got to admit. I'm sure a couple of drivers would probably want to wish me otherwise. However, it did lead to a great formula for some great racing. Mackenzie Mann, 12 places gained up into 16th place. And we've got to remember, he had a great performance last time out at Charlotte. And that is one of the drivers I was talking about at the start. You see him enter the championship and he's improving, and he's only sticking to that pattern now. So it's great to see his improvement up and down the order.
It is indeed, yeah. Just any excuse basically to watch this green flag again, just while we wait for the any drivers to jump into the interview waiting room to have a chat with Jack. But it was just carnage, wasn't it? And I don't think I've ever seen something like that. But the thing is, if you look at it, the drivers will watch this back, and if you look at the track, one, they've had all week to practice on this track. Two, they spent a good hour before qualifying practicing on this track, most of them. Then they had qualifying on this track, and everybody still got the first corner. Well, I say everybody, it's doing a disservice to half the grid, I'd say. But a lot of drivers still getting the first corner wrong, which, yeah, hopefully they'll see the funny side of why we keep going back to it. But it did set up a very entertaining race, and to be honest, if F1 did it, the F1 drivers did it, I think it would make everything rather more interesting. It's almost like having a Joker lap thrown in there, isn't it, from Rallycross? It made things quite something to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure the driver just sat there in the safety car off the right-hand side of your screen. Must be thinking, that's not quite the way you're supposed to be going. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I've seen a couple of drivers outbrake themselves, or maybe with a slight bit of memory fade, just go the wrong way. But I've never seen it to quite that extent. It was just one car, followed the other, followed the other, followed the other, and it just shows that if you get so hooked up on following that car in front and you're purely focused on that, if one car goes one way, it tends to be the domino effect backwards, and it caught a couple of people out, of course, with the slowdowns, and then everybody working their way through. You can see Michael Elliott had a good start there, up into the lead very early on. I'm hoping we have a driver. We do indeed. So we're going to bring Michael Elliott into the commentary booth. Michael Elliott, welcome to the SRW Comms box. Could you talk us through your perspective on the start of the race?
Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Yeah, wasn't expecting a podium. I think if you told me I was going to get a podium at the beginning of the race, I would have gladly have taken that. I feel like I maybe threw away the win tonight. Just made a mistake going into the chicane. But yeah, look, credit to Sander Boss. I mean, he drove so well. He kept it composed. I saw he also had a bit of pressure from Roberto as well. And then obviously me and Roberto had quite a nice little scrap, and then Kalle also got involved, which was great to see. But yeah, absolutely bizarre. Not quite sure what happened at the start there. I think whoever was near the front took the wrong turn, and I just seemed to judge the slowdown a little bit better than those around me. But yeah, I'll gladly take a podium. Yeah, awesome race overall.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great race to watch. Lots of battling, of course. Having your teammate there, it must have made it that much more enjoyable. And I'm just looking at the various championship points. You were down in 10th. Whether the championship is something you think about or not, you were down in 10th place on 75 points. A great haul of points for yourself and, of course, your teammate Kalle. But you've also got a good haul of points for SRL. So whether it is or isn't something you think about, it stood you in good stead for the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Kalle is in great form, obviously winning the previous round as well. And he had a great pace of, turn of pace tonight as well. So, yeah, we'll just keep on building on that momentum, and hopefully we can go one or two steps better next round.
Yeah, let's hope so. We could go to Okayama next time. Is that a circuit you love, a circuit you hate? It's renowned for the slippery Japanese tarmac. So is that going to need an extra few hours practice? Like, talk us through your plans for round 8 of the championship.
No, look, I love Okayama. I was actually on pole there last year for the Sunday drivers. So it's a track that I'm very fond of. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Well, we will look forward to seeing you there in, of course, 3 weeks' time. Once again, another well done from myself and everybody else here at SRW for the podium tonight. A great haul of points, and I've got to say, you definitely didn't leave us anything to be bored about. It was a great race to watch. But before we let you go, as per the usual script, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Yeah, just to SRW and you guys for putting on a great broadcast, and also to Sander Ware. I don't think he gets enough credit for the championship that he's built up here. I mean, if you look at the championship of the last year and a half, I mean, it's really gone from strength to strength. Ultra competitive as well. So massive shout out to him, and then massive shout out to Sander Borst as well as Roberto Garcia for a great drive tonight, and then also my teammate, and then yeah, just everyone else that was watching.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. Once again, another well done for the podium this evening, and we'll see you in 3 weeks' time in Japan.
Great stuff. Thanks, Jack.
Bye-bye. That is Michael Ellett there. A great guy, great character, and yeah, it just shows that if one driver does one thing at the start, everybody tends to follow. Quite a confusing start, but like he said, he judged it to perfection, and it stood him in good stead for the race.
It definitely did, yeah, and it was a good sort of battle that he had. He was describing as well between Garcia and obviously Calais and obviously Sander, and then to be honest, it was just a good race, wasn't it? There's no getting around it. Sometimes you got to put your hat on it and just say that was damn entertaining. So congratulations to everybody who was taking part. To be fair, I think we only got a handful of retired drivers, which is always nice to see. We had 28 drivers, and I think there were only 6 or 7 on the non-lead lap. So that means 22 drivers were all on the lead lap, which is always great to see as well. So not too much carnage and really good racing all up and down the field. So big congratulations from me. But I don't think there's that many. I don't think there's anybody else coming in to have a chat with us, Jack, tonight. We feel a bit lonely here, don't we?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's a mix of excitement, embarrassment, confusion. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure because we had all of those and a hell of a lot more here at Silverstone this evening. But yeah, we leave Northamptonshire in high hopes because, like we say, Okayama in 3 weeks' time for round 8 of the championship. We've been there before. Michael Ellett, of course, on pole last season, like he mentioned, and it's one of those circuits. It's on the calendar a hell of a lot throughout the rookie series, and sometimes even the higher rated series on iRacing. You will have driven there, no matter what you do. You will have driven there if you've built your road license up. So everybody's got experience, and that's where we'll start to see. Yes, of course, the usual names up there, but for me, keep an eye on Mackenzie Mann, newcomer to the championship, Aaron McGrath as well. So there's these new names working their way up through the order, progressing, gaining that experience. And I think at Okayama, obviously, these newer guys to the championship, maybe with a similar amount of experience, but possibly Okayama slightly newer in the minds of these drivers. So potentially we could see some new experience working their way up through the order. But it's that time already, Jacko. We've got to say goodbye.
Yeah, a big thank you to everybody who's tuned in, everybody who raced, and obviously was just involved in the broadcast in a general sense. With any luck, Okayama will bring us just as much exciting action, like Jack has hinted to there. I'm sure it absolutely will. A lot of the time, broadcasters and commentators are proven wrong. That, however, judging by the fact that every single race that the Sunday drivers have put on so far has been fantastic, I'm pretty confident that we won't be proven one for that one. So make sure you're tuned into Sim Racers World not next Sunday. Actually, I'm so used to saying next week, but in 3 Sundays time. My goodness, it's so long away. And we'll be back with more exciting action. My name's been Jack Oliphant. Alongside me has been Jack Werrell. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you later.